Hello and welcome into episode 209 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Bridgette Prue here with Scott McLaughlin, and Scott and I just went to Eichel's Day with the Cup, so we just went up to Skate 3 in Tyngsboro, and Scott, when we got there, that line was insane. I mean, I don't know if there was an official count on it, but Angie, one of the other Bruins reporters that was there, was telling me it was like 3,000 people. They thought just about 3,000 people were there. Huge turnout for Eichel's Day with the Cup.
Yeah, it was crazy. So you got there even a little before I did, but I was there, 9:45, and he wasn't even there yet. Cup wasn't there yet, and it was wrapped around the building, like zigzagging through the parking lot. Someone like one of the guys from the fire department side said, he had heard people started lining up as early as like 6:30 a.m. Obviously the cup itself is a spectacle, so like that's always going to draw attention anywhere it goes. But clearly, for Jack Eichel to bring it to his hometown and to his home rink where he grew up skating and still skates in the summer, it's a lot of fans. Obviously just about everyone wearing Eichel stuff, whether it was a lot of Vegas gear, obviously, but saw some BU sprinkled in, plenty of Chelmsford stuff. So kind of covering all his bases there. Did not see a lot of Buffalo Sabres stuff, I gotta say. Like maybe one or two here and there, but it seems like everyone got the memo to make all of their switch and update all their gear to Vegas stuff.
Yeah, I think there might be a good reason for that. Maybe they're like, let's get the Vegas one. Not just because he won the Stanley Cup with Vegas, but also because he really did. Like, his story is pretty interesting because he's a local kid, went to school locally at BU, but then he ends up, like, when you're such a high draft pick, you end up on teams that, like, you don't have a great chance of winning the cup your first several years usually, unless you somehow are like Tyler Seguin and the Bruins. Like, you end up on the Bruins because that was a draft pick given by another team. But so he ends up struggling like in Buffalo and wanting out and not necessarily getting the treatment from their medical staff that he wanted, and he ends up in Vegas. And what a way for him to finish it. Go to a team that was a contender, and he had a lot to say about his what got him there, why it was so important to bring the cup back to his home. Tyngsboro is not his hometown, but like his home area, his home rink, and it was just probably a really frustrating journey for him to get there.
Yeah, and so we were able to talk to Eichel, us, and a few other media members who were there, and people can hear that. We're going to tack it on to the end of this episode. So, you can, if you're interested, you can hear what Eichel had to say. But yeah, it's, so while I was there, I got roped into going on Bernie Corbett's college hockey show, BU Connection there. And we were talking about like how, Eichel's name at times, like kind of got dragged through the mud in Buffalo. And, he got criticized as like, can you win with him? Does he care about winning? Can you build a team around him? Like all that stuff. And I've said this before, like I always thought that was extremely unfair because it's like, well, what did they have around him? Like that team was so poorly built year after year, just terrible signings, just not being like, didn't play defense, didn't have the goaltending. And, obviously like Linus Ullmark had some decent seasons there at times, but there's just so little around them and so much turnover in terms of, it seemed like they're firing and hiring general managers like every year and a half, coaches, all of it. And it's like, that's just not the way to build a team that's going to win, especially, when you're trying to build it around someone like Eichel. Like, you can't have all that turnover and expect it to ever work. I remember covering him when he was at BU, and like that whole season, it was, obviously he cares about his draft stock. He was going into his draft year that season, and he wants to look good for NHL teams and all that. But he wanted to win. Like, he knew that BU team with him there was special and had the chance to do something special. And obviously they came up just short in like the most heartbreaking way possible with Their goalie, literally dropping the puck into his own net and things kind of falling apart from there.
Which is a scene that Scott doesn't usually like to talk about.
Nope.
It's not one of your best memories.
Yeah, we're gonna move right past it. But like he was devastated after that. Like that was, clearly meant like everything to him at that time. And I was like, I don't think that went away. Like, I don't think he got to the NHL and was like, oh, well, I don't care about winning anymore. No. He was just in a terrible situation. And at times, did he maybe not handle it the best? Yeah, probably. But again, he was, an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid that you're trying to build a franchise around. Like, it's a lot. Like, that's a lot of expectations and pressure. And, he wasn't able to rise above everyone else's failings. So he goes to Vegas, and first year he ever makes the playoffs, they win the cup, and he leads the team in scoring and is a huge reason why. So,
I always think it's BS when people say like, oh, they like this person doesn't want to win. Like, there's very few athletes that I can think of that I'm like, this person actually probably doesn't care about winning. Like James Harden, like really probably one of the only athletes I think like he just might cash in the paycheck, and that's just kind of crazy, especially in a sport like hockey where in the NBA people are getting paid like $50 million a year. Like, okay, and then they like go on vacation, whatever. That might be what they prefer to do, but in the NHL, it just doesn't feel like that at all. And this is something that I've made a point of in the past, just because of like in personal experience, not getting the right like healthcare for yourself when like something's wrong, and when like this is how I want to handle my body, and people are saying like, oh, we should try this instead, and you're like, no, I know my body. When he was going through his situation in Buffalo, where there was a disagreement between him and his doctors and the medical staff with the Sabres, like, I just don't like the idea of a team being able to kind of like tell you what you can and can't do with your body, especially when you think it's going to like help your career. That is going to be one of the worst feelings, just like based off past experience of me having been recommended to do certain things with my health that I just thought did not make sense for me. So like, I don't, if he was mad with Buffalo, like to me, that's incredibly valid.
Yeah. And I mean, to an extent, I also get like Buffalo's hesitation. It was like an experimental surgery. No hockey player had it before and continued playing. So like, I understand some of it, but ultimately it's like, if he's convinced, either you let him do it or you trade him. And ultimately they chose, but I think by that point, honestly, like even if they had caved at the 11th hour, everything was probably so frayed and beyond repair at that point that like a trade was going to be inevitable anyways. Since we are not just exclusively a Jack Eichel podcast, though, there is a Bruins tie in here because we asked, I asked him about Bruce Cassidy, a question about it, and said, and by the way, we'll get to Cassidy for like a minute as well, because he had the cup on Thursday, and there was a little bit of a viral moment that kind of made some headlines. But we asked Eichel about Cassidy, and he had like incredibly high praise and said basically the way that Cassidy got Vegas to play and got Eichel to play was why they won the Stanley Cup. And I talked to Jack Eichel's dad there as well, which not for the podcast, but I'll have some quotes from that in a story. And his dad said like the way Cassidy got Jack to play, he was like, he turned him into a 200-foot player. And I think Eichel has always taken pride in defense. It's not like he ever ignored it, but it just wasn't a strength. And like it became a strength for him this year. Mm-hmm. And just becoming an all-around center who was very good at both ends of the ice. And his dad was like, yeah, I think Cassidy was a big part of that. Like he got him to care about that and really commit to it and work at it from day one. So there was a lot of praise for Bruce Cassidy from Jack Eichel.
It was more than I was expecting, honestly. I mean, not that I was expecting him to say anything, bad or anything like that, but like it seemed like it was maybe something that we missed out here in Boston during the season. Like how much Cassidy was able to impact Eichel in particular. And yeah, he said straight up, that Cassidy, like, essentially as in part of a longer question, was the reason why they won. So that's pretty much as high praise as you can give someone.
Yeah. Before we get to the I Got It, because this is just going to be a quickie episode. We weren't even originally intending to do something, but it was like, well, that was a really cool event. So like we were there, we might as well share some reaction. Bruce Cassidy had the cup on Thursday and had it, as we mentioned on the last podcast, had it down in Milton for a great event, launching a charity in honor of Cassidy Murray, who tragically died in an accident in Aruba. Her family was there, and it was a little bit of. So I was not there, and I'll just be transparent, but a viral moment where Cassidy took the stage and they were playing the Bruins goal song, by Zombie Nation, and it was Steve Conrad of the Herald who tweeted that out, and people kind of ran with it. And as much as Steve tried to clarify that, this wasn't Cassidy's idea, like, Bruce Cassidy said he knew nothing about it, like, clearly wasn't, by no means was he trying to like rub it in anyone's face. I think it's pretty clear that what happened is like, someone who's working the event, putting it on or whatever, thought like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's hockey, it's Cassidy. People love the Bruins goal song. Like, of course I'm going to play it. And these things don't get they don't get planned way out and far in advance or anything. Like, there was stuff at Eichel's thing today where it was like, some of it was clearly pretty well planned. And then other things were like, they're figuring out as they go, because it's, it's a lot of people, it's a small space, and like, eventually you just kind of figure it out and get going. Yeah. So I know people ran with that and were like, oh, well, Cassidy was classy on the Greg Hill show, but like, that was clearly a dig at the Bruins. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. Like, it was totally out of his hands, and someone just thought like that was a good song to play.
But Scott, what's better for talk radio?
Yes, of course.
Narrative. But yeah, so the moral of the story is this week has been full of the Stanley Cup being paraded around the area and it not being paraded around by Bruins. It being paraded around by Golden Knights, which, I mean, a lot of people are big Eichel fans because, that's the kid that grew up around here and they grew up rooting for him, and, they'll have their pictures with him now forever. And some of those kids that play there, I'm sure, aspire to what Eichel did and to be like him and bring the cup back there another time. So it was a cool event. I actually had never touched the Stanley Cup before, so I got to touch it. That was great. But was there anything else, Scott, that you wanted to say before I got to get back over in this room over here and do my job?
No, just that it's cool, like seeing an NHL star like that, like still connected to his community. Like the owner of Skate 3 and his family were there, and like Eichel obviously is friendly with them, has known them forever. A couple of his teachers from school were there, and like he recognized them right away, and like stuff like that's just cool to see. And I know they're bringing it around to other like restaurants, bars in the area. They're bringing it to Zwicker's Pro Shop in Bedford, which is where he always went for his equipment and skate sharpening and all that. So like, I just find stuff like that like really cool. Like, you get it for one day and you bring it to the places that meant the most to you growing up, and like it's just cool to see.
Yeah, it was a jam-packed day because he came from his parents' house to the rink, like his childhood house to the rink. I talked to some people there that said he was going to bring it to the fire department and the police department, or at least for those people to see it. And then when I asked him, like, he wasn't super specific because I don't think he wanted anyone to know where he was going, but he said he's going to finish out at his house with family and friends and drink some beers out of the cup. So, I mean, perfect end to the perfect day.
I figure by the time we post this, they'll have already moved past Zwickers, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything by naming a place, but yeah. Anyways, yeah, no, I think that's it. Little quickie episode, and now you can hear from Eichel.
Here, so it's a special place to me, and special day.
Is this where the dream began for you, right here?
This is where it began. This is where I learned to skate, right here on this rink right behind me. 4th birthday. Like I said, I still come back here, and they're really good to me. They let me come in and skate when I want to, and you know, they're pretty generous with ice during the summer, so I spend a lot of time here.
Talk about the dramatic entrance, the police escort. When's the last time you got a police escort?
Probably would have been during the playoffs at some point on the road. Yeah, that was pretty cool. You know what, they said they were going to have an escort. I didn't expect as many you know, policemen and you know, motorcycles to, you know, help bring me here, but it's all part of the memory, and just to have that experience, and to have all of them drive down on my street where I grew up and my parents' home, you know, and then the cup gets dropped off there. It was pretty cool.
Did Bruce hand it off to you at all? Or?
No, Bruce is still down the Cape. He's probably golfing today.
What does the rest of the day have in store for you?
Just, you know, seeing some different people, you know, taking it to a few places that have meant things to me, and then, you know, just enjoy with the people that helped me, you know, earn it, and it's just a nice gathering of family and friends, and enjoy it, and probably, you know, drink a bunch of beers, and we'll enjoy it.
Out of the cup?
Oh yeah, of course. How can you not?
Jack, what were you thinking when pulled out and first saw the line outside?
You know what? I was expecting a lot of people. I don't know if I was expecting this many people. You know, it goes to show the support in the hockey community around here, and it means a ton. Just being around the last few days, I golfed up here and just doing a few things. You run into people, and everyone was telling me that they were coming, so I knew that the turnout would be pretty crazy, and it's amazing to have all these people come out and support me.
I saw your elementary PE teacher here. What was that like?
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. I haven't seen her in a while, but I recognized her right away, and yeah, that's pretty nuts. It's pretty cool that she came.
You mentioned Bruce Cassidy having you yesterday. What was it like having him as a coach this season?
It was incredible. I mean, I think what he did for our group and for me as a player was the reason we won. I think he came in, and you know, the way that he you know, changed our game, and but just pushed guys, and you know, held everyone accountable, and the way that he was able to you know, get us to play, it was great. He was phenomenal. He was great all year.
Did you have any preconceived ideas about, you know, what kind of coach he was from, you know?
I had nothing. I mean, obviously you talk to guys, but I'm a big believer in you build it off your own experience, and that's sort of what I wanted to do.
Thanks, Jack.